The Miami Dolphins finished 2 games out of a wild card spot last season and continue to be stuck in the same situation they've been in for the past several years. Their season goes how Tua goes, and right now it's not going well. He missed 4 weeks for concussion last season, which was his 4th since being drafted in 2020, and then missed the final 2 weeks of the season with a hip sprain. When Tua is healthy, wheeling and dealing to a position room that is among the best in the NFL when they're all clicking, the Dolphins are a perennial wildcard team, but when they field the backups, the floor is much lower. Since Tua was drafted, we have seen 5 other quarterbacks start these games. I'm going to go find that graphic, hopefully. Yes. Nope, that's not it.
Down.
Thank you. I got it. There we go. Appreciate it. We've seen those 5 quarterbacks. When they start, the Dolphins are 14-21, with 3 of those 5 averaging under 200 pass yards per game. On the O-line, the Dolphins bring in James Daniels, who posted a PFF grade of over 90 last year on the offensive line, and then only allowed 1 sack and 1 QB hit. The question will be, can the Dolphins, with the young guys, step up? So you've got 2024 second-rounder Patrick Paul and 2025 second-rounder Jonah Sava-Inaya. I think I said that right. I put the phonetic pronunciation in there. Sava-Inaya. So my first question is a 2-for-1. It's the O-line and the quarterback in one. Will the O-line be able to protect Tua and keep him healthy?
I have a little bit of optimism that the O-line will play better or well. I don't have any optimism that Tua stays healthy regardless. It's still a physical game. He's very injury-prone, and he combines that with not the smartest decision-making on the field in terms of protecting himself. So I expect an improved O-line, but I'm not going to bet on Tua to stay healthy and play all 17 games.
Yeah.
I'd hope so for Tua's sake.
Same.
It sucks to see the injuries that he's had, and again, for like pretty much all of them except one to be on primetime national television. That doesn't help the narrative and the discussion on the topic whatsoever. And Tua is a great kid, and man, he had a hell of a story in his collegiate career. And to come to Miami, he has rightfully been paid, as your graphic has shown. He's been great when he has been starting and playing healthy, and Miami hasn't been bad when he hasn't been. But I just expect this offense to be really dinking and dunking, and the health is a big question for the rest of the offense as well.
It's not a deep group.
Does Tyreek Hill play enough? Does Jalen Waddle play enough? Devon Achane had injury problems last year. Ollie Gordon was kind of a similar story with Oklahoma State last year as well. And I just got big questions there. And a big part for them is I just don't think they're going to be able to run the ball well enough to be in spots where Tua isn't having the opposing defensive line just kind of tee off on him. And the offensive line isn't good enough to protect him whatsoever. They're good on the interior, but on the exterior, they are not going to be able to match up with the pass rushers that they'll face throughout this season, and I think that's a huge question. And then, like Jack said, Tua doesn't do a well enough job at protecting himself, doesn't get down when he needs to, puts himself in bad spots. Like, his injuries are not necessarily always freak. They're really just kind of, technically you're in the wrong spot at the wrong time, but it is more so it's just like a quarterback shouldn't be putting themselves in that spot. I mean, definitely a quarterback of his stature. You're just more than likely going to put yourself in spots where you're going to get hurt. So the offensive line is a huge question for me, and the health of the weapons, and I just don't think they're going to be able to run the ball well enough. I'll go ahead and tell you right now, I don't think you should pick Devon Achane as high as he's going in a lot of mock.
What's his ADP? You know,
his ADP I don't know exactly. If you can double check that real quick,
Yeah,
but I believe it is in the top 10. And he is, if I'm not
top
mistaken,
10,
like running back.
3
or 4 on the board.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's like 13.
That
running back 7.
That seems a little high. I'll state my case for my Texas A&M Aggie legend, Devon Achane. Happy I got to see him play in person here, though it didn't. He had his one career fumble in Davis Wade Stadium in a crucial part of the game.
That's the game.
It did. It really was the turning point. Anyway, in terms of drafting for fantasy, he does provide a lot of production in the passing game.
True.
And he fits the offense really well. That does still seem a little high. But I'm going to pivot off that and say I agree. I'm a little scared about the run game. As much as I love Achane, and I do think he can make stuff happen between the tackles, that's not his game. You're not going to find consistency there with him in between the tackles running the ball. He's a smaller guy. You want to get him out in space. And he does fit the offense, but my issue with the offense, ignore his comment, it just feels like an offense that everything has to be perfect for it to go well, right? When all the pieces are healthy, when everyone's in sync, it's like it looks beautiful, right? But then one person goes out or something happens and they look terrible, they can't get yards, stuff like that. And so that also really makes me question, one, the offensive scheme, but two, am I overrating the skill groups as a whole, that like they almost are complementary pieces and they all are like cogs in this machine, and there's no one that like can go make plays for themselves and on their own?
I think my issues with the offense is really just the fact that like it's all speed. There's no power to this offense whatsoever.
It's a finesse offense.
It's an on-time offense, and Tua, when he's on time, is excellent. When he has to improvise, he has not been as good as he was in college. And yeah, it's all speed, it's all finesse. If they played every single game in Miami, I'm sure they'd be actually a pretty solid team. And if you look at their season and specifically their schedule, they're gonna be in tough spots. They're gonna have to play Cleveland pretty early. Now they're lucky they don't have to play Buffalo late in the season, but they played them early. But they got 3 games towards the end of the season that are almost guaranteed losses with the way that Tua plays in cold weather. You can look up that stat. It's not good. They play at the Jets, at the Steelers, and at the Patriots, and those are 3 important games if this is a team that wants to make the postseason. And those are all in December and January, and that's not going to play out well for them this season. That's almost guaranteed to be 3 losses, and that's 2 losses in division as well, which doesn't help you. And losing to Pittsburgh as a team that you're going to be around in the same pack with,
not a loss you want to take at all.
I just don't like the moves that they've made to address really anything. They haven't given themselves a chance to be a team that can play with power, and they're really just only a team that can play with speed. They made big additions. They brought in Minka Fitzpatrick, trading Jalen Ramsey. They bring in touchdown merchant Nick Westbrook-Akine, who had tons of touchdowns for the Titans last year, but not a lot of receptions. Darren Waller unretires and joins the Dolphins.
Rap career wasn't going too well, I guess.
Yeah, apparently. And in the draft, Kenneth Grant, who kind of slid to them
out of
Michigan, and is a really good pick. I would be interested to see how he looks, but he is, outside of Chop Robinson, really the only weapon on the defensive line for this team this season. And with that, they're not going to be able to play well in the cold weather as well defensively, which hurts them doubly if their offense already isn't good. And then they lose some key pieces, like Raheem Mostert, I think, was a key piece for them. And Sanders will get into Ollie Gordon here in a second, and we'll be interested to see if he can replace that. But Mostert was a largely productive guy. He was a big touchdown guy for them. They lose Calais Campbell, who was a big leader on the defensive line for them. And then they lose 2 other leaders, veteran guys who played a lot of snaps for them, and Javon Holland and Anthony Walker. And so that defense, it feels like it's going to be weaker. And when Jalen Ramsey, who was kind of the leader of that defense, leaves now Minka Fitzpatrick has to take over that defense. And I question the defense as well. Are they going to be any good, especially when it matters later on in the season? And if a big thing for their defense has also been health. They've had some bad injury luck. And if they're not lucky again from an injury perspective, that's not going to help them as well.
No.
But Sanders, you have some thoughts on Ollie Gordon and see if he can replace Raheem Mostert this season?
Yeah, so Ollie Gordon was RB1 on big boards going into the 2024 season after he rushed for 1,700 yards and 21 touchdowns. But then he had a down year his junior year, rushing for 850 yards and 12 touchdowns. And so I guess my question will be, I do think he brings kind of a different mentality to this Dolphins offense. So not that just speed guy. He forced almost 70 missed tackles his junior or sophomore year. So I I was high on him going into last year. Everybody was. Like I said, he was RB1. So I'll be interested to see. I would love to see him get back whatever he had going on that sophomore year and get out of the funk that was going on his junior year. Because that was not fun to see him struggle like that. So I would love to see him bounce back and have a kind of a breakout year. Right now this depth chart has him in the 4 spot behind like Alexander Madison and somebody else. I could really see him like competing for the 2nd spot and then maybe splitting touches with Achan further down in the season.
He's 100% going to be used. Mike McDaniels is not scared to use other guys throughout the depth chart. And Ollie Gordon at 6'1", 225 is a complete flip, really, from Devon Achan. And I think he'll be a weapon that's used for that team. Madison was slightly productive in some weeks. I even finessed a trade with Alexander Madison with one of my buddies, which kind of helped me win that league last season. But I don't expect Alexander Madison to be anything besides a guy who can give you 5 carries a game, and he's not really someone you're bringing in to design plays for him.
No.
Ollie Gordon can be that for Mike McDaniels in this
Right.
offense, and that'll be interesting to see this season if they're able to do that.
I think Madison's claim to fame was that year he was at Minnesota with Dalvin Cook, and Cook kept getting hurt. And so I was in a league where like people would just Cook would come back, they would just drop Madison. And then Cook would get hurt again, and you just had to pick him up. So I do think I won some games. He went off that year for sure. He's a fantasy niche right there.
Yeah, this is a team that's going to be in your face a ton. They actually play more nationally televised games than the Buffalo Bills. They play 6 of them, 5 in prime time, and then they'll play in Madrid against Jack's Commanders.
That's going to be
week
bad
11.
for them.
But yeah, I think the prime time aspect, that's going to be, if Miami's bad, which we all think they're going to be, and I think that's not necessarily a opinion that is not had by many people in the NFL world. They're going to be in primetime football, and more importantly, like at the end of the season, they cover up 2 of our primetime games in Week 15 and 16.
We may not want to be watching them.
Yeah, that'll be maybe that's the night you take the night off from watching football, or you, because who wants to see the Miami Dolphins go to the Pittsburgh Steelers on Monday Night Football?
It should be 15. A good game, close game.
It would be fun to watch at the beginning of the season.
Yeah,
but I think there's a chance both of those teams are 5-8 at that point in the season. So this is a team that's going to be shown on TV. You're going to watch them a ton. And again, that now makes me think of, well, if I had to predict when Tua gets his final concussion and his career is over, it's probably one of these games. It seems like that's par to the course for him, and that's actually kind of unlucky for him, I would say.
They're like tempting fate with that, honestly.
Yeah, it really feels that way. It feels like, man, like, why couldn't they just be like the Saints or something where they had 0 primetime games? But they're still a hot commodity. A lot of people want to watch Tyreek Hill and Devon Achan, and Mike McDaniels does well for TV ratings.
Yeah, it's in theory a very fun offense to watch. But so I guess I get the primetime games from that standpoint. It doesn't always pan out like that week to week.
Why is Tua not wearing one of the Guardian caps yet?
Well, the Guardian caps. This is kind of not necessarily off topic, but it's on your question. The Guardian caps, compared to Tua's helmet, scientifically proven, do nothing different than just the helmet. Wearing them combined does nothing different protecting your head than it would be Guardian cap or no Guardian cap. So that is why he is choosing not to do it.
So why do players wear them? They just think it makes a difference?
Some people like it for their protection. It gives them a little bit more confidence. But there are many of the helmets, in fact, a third of them, of the NFL helmets that you can wear that are prescribed to players, are just as effective as a Guardian cap.
Yeah.
And so players wear them, one, if they're in that 2/3 where it's not necessarily as effective, or they'll wear it with it because it gives them
confidence.
Yeah, it gives
which
them more
in turn it's going to actually, in my opinion, I think that confidence
because then he's taking more hits,
more injuries.
It depends. Or
because if you think about it, this is an extreme example. If players did not wear helmets, I think the number of concussions would go down. That's a hot take because players would play the game differently.
No, they wouldn't go down. I think you'd see maybe less concussions on maybe collisions, but think about people smacking their heads on the ground, crap like that.
It would.
Incidental hits. You maybe wouldn't see the massive collisions causing as
I
many
think you would see
concussions.
less concussions.
But I mean,
And,
if people
and
are going to,
but when the dude's wearing the Guardian cap and he's like, I'm invincible. I'm just going to run into this dude as hard as I can, head first, and just like crush my neck. Like,
but you don't have a helmet on. Game's on the line. You need the first down to move the chains. The other team can't get the ball back. Some guy's running at you. You don't have a helmet on. You're going to go.
you use the shoulder.
Oh,
You're gonna
crap.
use the shoulder.
And your head is still pretty down. It could get crunched.
If there were no helmets, Josh Allen wouldn't be playing football anymore. Like, he is one of those guys that if he didn't have a helmet, he would have broken his neck already.
Yeah.
Because he
Yeah.
puts himself in those situations, and he does that because he wants to win.
Yeah. I just think that when you don't have that extra feeling of protection, you still want to win, but I don't know what to call it, but
Think about people just yachtseeing out there at angle ball. Like, we got some people doing crazy stuff,
We do.
no gear, and it's like, what is happening?
yeah, we do have some.
Some people just don't care.
And we play a no collision sport.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
It's crazy.
All right.
Last thing on the Guardian cap. I also think there's some people that wear the Guardian cap because, like, all right, Sanders, you're an NFL QB. You have a fiance, and she's like, I don't want you to have CT when you're older. Please wear the Guardian cap. I don't care if it says it does nothing. There's science. Like, it will make me feel better.
That's definitely like your mom.
Are you
like,
or your mom? Like, are
your
you wearing
mom
the
is
Guardian
like-
cap? Because I'd put it on probably.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. To make my mom feel better, I don't know, but then I wouldn't look cool. I look like Mushroom, like Toad from the Mario Brothers.
But then you make your mom mad or your fiance mad.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's a tough choice because I
Yeah.
agree they look bad, but what can you do?
They do look pretty goofy. I don't have to deal with that because I am not an NFL quarterback.
Yeah. Do we want to pivot to talking about the kind of how the schedule shakes out?
Yeah, like I said, the schedule has a ton of primetime games. This is going to be a team that's in your face a ton. The week 1 game, I think, is, for me, if I had to pick a game that I will be watching, it's week 1. And it doesn't really matter who starts for the Indianapolis Colts, but that feels like such an important game for both of those teams in terms of starting the momentum off well
Agreed.
for the season. And Miami, if they're able to pull that game off, that gives them those next 5 to 6 weeks where they're in games that matter a ton, but they've already got a win under their belt, so losing them don't matter as much as they should. Losing to Indiana, Miami could be in a spot where some people would think they're 0-6 through the first 6 weeks. Like, if the New York were to go down there and win in Miami, they're 0-6. And then they got to go to Cleveland and beat Shedeur Sanders to get a win. And so I think week 1 for me is a huge one against the Colts. And it's similar on the Colts' perspective. Like, if Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones, whoever's starting for them, if they're able to start off with a win, even if it's against a bad team in Miami, it's a huge momentum
win's
boost.
a win.
And in the AFC South, every win matters in terms of potentially winning that division. Miami's not going to be in a spot where they're going to win this division, and they are the third odds favorites to do so, and they deserve to be the third odds favorites. But it feels like a huge game for them, for me, and it's a game I'm going to be watching because it can kind of tell the story of a season. I think about, like, to compare it to a week 1 game last season, I think of the Texans-Colts week 1 game in Indianapolis where Joe Mixon played really, really well. Stephon Diggs had touchdowns. If Houston doesn't win that game, they may not win the division because the Colts are right there at 8-9, and then that makes Indianapolis 9-8, and the Texans are 8-9, and they miss out on the playoffs. Like, that's a game that kind of matters more than you think it would, and starting 0-1 is not necessarily a bad thing for a lot of fans. If they started 0-1, hey, the season's not over. We got a ton of football to play, but I think it makes a huge difference for these two teams in making the postseason.
I think for the Dolphins specifically, it's the first week is crucial, but even just those first 6, you have to find a way to pick up wins and at least be around 500. First 7, sorry, because then you go at Cleveland. Because then you hit at Atlanta, a team I'm pretty high on, and then before you're by, you go Baltimore, Buffalo, Washington, and I know you get all 3 at home, but those are 3 teams that people view as, kind of stalwarts in this league, great teams, and so I don't really love, them winning any of those games. So if you're 2-4 5 or 3-4 going into that 4-week stretch, and
Yeah.
you lose all of them, your season's over.
And then you come out of the bye and you got to play New Orleans. Like,
Yeah, and well, I think the real one that's not joking on that is out of the bye. You have 3 games in that stretch where you're playing cold weather.
Yeah.
Tua has not been good in cold weather from a win perspective or a stat perspective, and so they've got to be able to set themselves up to where they can lose those cold weather games because they're going to. I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, I don't think they win any of those games. They're just not a team that looks like they could win those games unless Justin Fields has broken his toe again, or Aaron Rodgers isn't playing, or Drake May isn't playing at that point in the season. Like, that's the only way I think they could win those games. So, yeah, those first 6 weeks hold a ton of importance, and really those first 7, because they got a tough.
They're also a team I could see, we start off really bad, Mike McDaniel's out the door, something like that. So.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
JP, you said it makes sense for them to be the 3rd favorite to win the division. If Tua gets hurt in the first 4 to 6 weeks, I think would you pick the Jets to finish ahead of them in the division?
Yeah, I think so.
Who's the backup? It's Zach Wilson, right?
Yeah.
Zach Wilson is the backup quarterback who would not really be any better than Tua.
Well, no, he would be a lot worse than Tua. Is that what you meant?
Yeah, yes, that's what I meant. Not a lot
I was
worse.
about to say, not being.
He would be worse than Tua, but he would not be better than Tua. I don't know.
No,
Take it as whatever you want.
I
Zach
say-
would not be better.
Yeah, it's not a good backup.
100%.
I do like him more as a backup than Skylar Thompson,
Mhm. Yeah.
for example. But it's still not a great place.
He's
to
no
be.
Ryan Fitzpatrick, but
I feel bad talking about Tua in injuries this much because I really do feel terrible for
It's
the
the
guy.
narrative.
He's fun to watch. I want him to
he
be
is very fun to
healthy
watch.
because when Nick Saban comes back and it's him and Tua reunited and he's reunited in Miami, it's gonna be a ton of fun to watch.
Yeah.
So
Well, that kind of closes it.
do we want to
out
give our
for
actual
Miami.
predictions because we didn't say our numbers
Yes.
wise. We've talked all
Jack's
about how
very
we're
high
not.
on them. He's got
He
them
is
going
very
6
high
and
on
11, where me and JP both have them going 5 and 12. So, why are you so high on the Dolphins, Jack?
I mean, I talked about that tough stretch, but there really is a lot of winnable games on this schedule, and I do think it's a fair weather offense in terms of they don't handle adversity well, but there are undeniably going to be some weeks out there, when healthy, where they go out and they put on a clinic offensively and put up a lot of touchdowns and points to get them some wins. So that's why I have them at 6 and 11.
Through the first 5 weeks, we have, once again, the exact same alternating loss, win, loss, win, loss. So, and then we have another. We all have them. No, we do not. Actually, that's the last game. We all have the same. But we're kind of clicking, guys, with the AFC East.
So we can all be wrong together.